You could honestly make the argument that the NHL draft may not be the most important thing to the St. Louis Blues at the moment. And why is that? Why should it be the most important thing? I'm going to talk about this coming up here on Locked on Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode of Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk about if the draft is really the number one priority right now for the Blues and their focus, observations when watching the playoffs, and closer to better. And what exactly does that mean? Now, it's going to be a busy off season and there's a lot of things to tackle. But right now, it is April 22nd. And at least for me, I'm thinking draft. But for the Blues, I think they're thinking some other things might be more of a priority. And before I dive into that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. So let's go talk about this. Okay. So listen, the coaching change, that's probably the number one priority. And I understand that at this moment in time, the focus for the Blues will be on, who's going to be the next head coach. And I understand that. That is so important. Do not get twisted. But at the end of the day, I believe Doug Armstrong already has his decision made. And you can go speculate all you want. I personally just think that he knows who he's going to have, and that candidate may or may not be Drew Bannister. It might be somebody else, but Doug knows. So, yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, Drew Bannister, ever since taking over, he went 30, 19, and 5 after Berube got fired. And I think at the end of the day, when you think about the coaching staff of the St. Louis Blues, you want a coach that is going to be reputable and reliable. And maybe the coach, honestly, that Armstrong likes is currently in the playoffs right now. So I don't know who that would be. I can't even think about who that would be. I just know that they have to focus on the draft. This upcoming draft is in Las Vegas. And I personally am so excited about it. I think that at the end of the day, this is a draft class that is a super strong, but it's not as good as last year's draft class. And I've talked about this before with how this year's draft class is just, they're good, but they're not, the same it. And right now, obviously, with the draft lottery, I don't expect us to move. We're going to probably be at number 16, which is fine. I mean, it's not great. It's not good. It's not what I want. And it's very infuriating because Sam Dickinson, who is a defender we talked about Sam, okay? I know we're not going to get him. And we could have utilized him so much. He's going to go probably top 5, if I'm being honest. And that's the problem, is that, there is a lot of good defensemen in this draft class. And right now, I don't know if we're going to be able to get them. There's also another guy, Colton Roberts, who I've been looking at, who's a defenseman. You have Henry Muse, defenseman, who also is good. You have a lot of good defensemen. The other thing, too, when you're looking at this first round, we're going to probably have the number 16th overall pick, which is, cool, fine, rad. And we didn't trade up or anything. So we right now have one first round pick. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but I also don't think it's a good thing. And right now, we're projected to get all these like different players, and At the end of the day, none of these guys are that fascinating to me. And then in the second round, so we go 16 and then we go 48, 56. We got that from Toronto. So we have like some later picks, but I'll dive into why I think a move needs to be made before the draft because I want the St. Louis Blues to have the best possible chance of really being able to get these key players that they desperately need. I'm not saying Doug Armstrong's going to work his magic and the Blues are going to get a top 5 draft pick, but it just seems to me like they're not being as aggressive in this draft class when they need to be. They're a team that isn't in the playoffs. We're not watching Blues playoff hockey. And I think that right now the focus should be okay, when the playoffs are done, what can the Blues do leading up to the draft? And I think that's the most important focus right now is what they can do. I have said this once and I have said this again, but when it comes to the St. Louis Blues, you have not only the defense to rebuild, but you also have, well, if you want me to be honest with you, you also have some of the offense to rebuild. Offense, yes, you have some of the offense, and I think that too is something that you should be thinking about. But also another thing that you should be thinking about right now is free agency. And I'm not saying that the Blues are going to acquire Sam Reinhart, even though that would be really nice, or Brandon Montour. Listen, the Panthers do have a lot of good guys. So, like, I'm watching them play, and I'm like, okay, but you also have Steven Stamkos, who I really doubt the Lightning are going to get rid of him, or Jonathan Marchessault would be another one. Like, you have a lot of good players, right, that are hitting the market. And that's why I said free agency this year was going to be absolutely insanity. Like, insanity. And this free agency has the ability to really like change a team. And I think when it comes to this free agency, the Blues need to be aggressive because I think we have like Jacob Vanra, who uh, it is what it is, but like, what if we got just a Jonathan Marchessault, like, cup experience, or Brandon Montour? Could you imagine if we got Brandon Montour, what that would do for the D? Like, this is what I'm saying. Think about the defense. Think about how good we would do if we got some great defense. And listen, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I am saying it is possible. And I'm just looking at like everything and I'm just like, okay, we can do this. And in our own little central division, I mean, we also do have Kasperi Kapanen, and I'm like I'm not like, oh, upset, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. But then you also have to look at, and I know that the Wild signed him. Marc-Andre Fleury was a free agent, and I feel bad because he's never going to win the cup with Minnesota, but whatever. Free agency is going to be absolutely insane, and I am so happy. Oh, Casey Middlestat's I mean, a restricted free agent. This is what I'm saying. Let's be aggressive. Be aggressive, because these are some players. Like, I'm looking at this list of names, and I'm like, oh, could you imagine them wearing the blue note? And I think that's what Doug Armstrong needs to do. You need to seriously think about how we can acquire some of these guys. Oh, Elias Lindholm. Okay. See, this is what I'm saying. My mind is flowing with ideas. See, the free agency is absolutely insane. And like, if you're anybody like me, you know what I'm thinking. How can we improve in the draft, get some good free agents, and we just make this team a playoff contending team before the season begins? Like, that's what I'm planning on. Doug Armstrong, I just need your help, because at the end of the day, I can construct a really solid roster for the St. Louis Blues. It's more of, okay, well, Doug Armstrong actually do it? And that's where the uncertainty comes into play. Because do I have faith in him? No. Am I going to believe in him? No. Am I going to hope for the best? Absolutely. Doesn't mean that the best will actually happen, but these are things that I think about. And I think that for you right now, you need to be thinking the way that I am. What can the St. Louis Blues do from now until the start of the season to become the best possible team on paper? Because once you have a good team on paper, you can make that good team come to life or something like that, they say. I want to tell you about my friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's 150 bucks, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/locked on and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So I've been watching some playoff hockey. And by some, I've been watching a lot of playoff hockey. And it's also right now, as I'm recording this, absolutely insane. Um, that all the home teams have won so far. Okay. Tonight, we have the Cheater Knights. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights playing, and I'm hoping that the Stars win because I had Dallas winning the cup, even though I know they're like our Central Division enemy. Blah, blah, blah. I get it, but come on, a girl made a prediction, so it is what it is. But when watching the playoffs, you know what's one thing I'm noticing? The power play, the power play, the power play, and how strong these power plays look. Okay, besides like the Capitals, maybe Nashville too. Every other team's had really strong power plays. And the Rangers have a really strong power play. The Avs do. Um, like needless to say, the power plays are absolutely fantastic. And the Canes, and that's one thing that St. Louis really needs to improve on is the power play. And I've said this once and I've said it again, but just changing it up, tweaking it up a little bit can make such a big difference. I noticed that towards the end of the season, the power play did look a lot better, which I am so happy about. But that's one thing that I believe cost the Blues a lot of games, a lot of points that were lost was the power play. The penalty kill, it's not that the Blues have a bad penalty kill. But again, another area that if you tweak it up just a little bit, the Blues can become significantly stronger in it. I don't think St. Louis is that bad in special teams. I think that the results on the ice this season were not good. But I do think with maybe tweaking up the coaching staff a little bit, some new players coming in, it will look a lot better. I think that they have most of the foundation. I do. I do get concerned though, because special teams is an area where you really need to focus on. It can cost you games, and we've seen that before. I mean, there's been plenty of times this season where the Blues have had a 5-on-3 man advantage and nothing's come out of it, which is absolutely mind boggling to me that you can have two extra skaters on the ice and not accumulate anything. And I think that when you take a look back at the season, and you look at games where, the Blues went to overtime and lost, or they didn't even go to overtime and they just lost in regulation. They probably didn't execute on a power play during that game. And could you just imagine if they executed just a little bit better on that power play? They would have had a couple more points and maybe they would have been in the playoffs now. I'm not saying that that's the reason why the Blues were not in the playoffs, but it is something when I am watching these other teams really dominate the ice. It's because their special teams are really strong and effective. And I believe that special teams can help you win games. And it's true. And as I said, the penalty kill, it's fine. Not bad, it's fine. Power play needed work, but it did get better, which is a positive. I don't think that the power play was as bad as maybe it seemed. There was a lot of sometimes unluckiness, if that's even a word I can use, unluckiness. Is that a word that I can use? But it's true. There was just sometimes unfortunate. Now I'm like making up words on this podcast. Um, but it is true how the Blues' power play just it wasn't the best, but it could have always been worse. And oh, now I have to count. I hate doing this. So in our power play, we were ranked the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20, 25th worst power play in the NHL. Or 25th best power play, I should say. Like, our power play percentage was, you know what? Eh, I don't even 78%. Like, okay, maybe our power play. Oh, no, it wasn't. Oh, wait, that's actually not good. Okay, our power play is not good. We don't have to talk about it, but yeah, it was not a good power play. It was a little ugly. I like how I counted 2 and just took the counting, but yeah, it just was not good. But, we had a lot of power play opportunities this season. We had I you know what I hate about this? That doesn't seem right. There's no way. Power play we had 250 power play opportunities? No way. Really? See, like, all the stats are coming out now that the season's over, and I'm like, "Really? We did?" Because to me, it just doesn't seem like we had that many power play opportunities. I'm kind of surprised about this, actually. Huh. What a weird statistic. Do you ever just look at a stat and you're just like, "Huh, weird?" Also, Jordan Binghamton was ranked 115th, being one of the best fantasy hockey players, and Bucci was 118. So congratulations, boys. And Cairo was 130. So that's another stat that came out. I have all these stats. Like I'm telling you, like I need to do like a whole episode on fantasy hockey. Like there's so much to talk about. Such little time on this podcast. I'm like a little all over the place. It is what it is. All right. Wow. That was cuckoo bananas. But you know what isn't cuckoo bananas? And it's not me making up words. It's me telling you about my friends over at Game Time. Game Time is now the best place to get your tickets for any upcoming game, especially Major League Baseball, to watch our St. Louis Cardinals hit the field. Okay. You can pick out specific games that you want to see. So if you want to see a specific team against your cards, you already know what to do. Use Game Time. You can see where you're going to be sitting. So Game Time has this feature where you can have like a seat view, which is so cool. And I like it because I'm short, so it allows me to see it a little bit better. But they also have the best tickets guaranteed. Oh man. Oh, we're down right now against the Diamondbacks. But if you want to see, for instance, the Diamondbacks tomorrow or on Wednesday, use Game Time. And this is what you need to do when you use my friends over at Game Time. You need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We're closer to better. And what do I mean by that? Well, the St. Louis Blues' season didn't end the way that we wanted it to end. We do have a lot of good pieces, and I was really thinking about this today. Our goalie Tatum is so strong right now with Jordan Binghamton and Joel Hofer. I do feel like that is a part of the Blues that is our strength, is our goalies. We also have superstars, right? Within Robert Thomas, we have a Jake Neighbors who's up and coming. There is a lot of talent on the St. Louis Blues team. I believe that we're closer to being a better team than most people have us out to be because we are truly just going to be a better team. When you think about teams in the NHL that might be struggling, like you think about the Washington Capitals, I know they're in the playoffs. We had more points though, and more wins, and more OTLs. But when you think about all of that and the fact that they're in the playoffs and we're not, it kind of does bother me. But, anyways, when you think about the Capitals, they do have Alexander Ovechkin, who is one of the best players in the NHL. But their team is getting a little bit older, and I do like watching our old friend TJ Oishi on the ice. Always nice to see him. But they're an older team. we are a younger team. So when you compare a team like Washington, who is in the playoffs this year, I doubt they'll make it past that first round. You take a look at the Blues and you think about the longevity that we have here in St. Louis, and you probably would feel better about the Blues in the next couple years than you would about the Capitals, despite the fact that they're in the playoffs. I think when you think about it like that way, you should feel a little bit better because it's so easy to say, oh, no, I want what they have. But do you? Because nobody wants to say, I want a team that's going to make it into the playoffs and go in a cup run for 1 year and then not be a contending team again. Oh, wait. Hi, we're the St. Louis Blues, and that happened to us. Even though we did make it to the playoffs after for a little bit, it was still one of those things where no one ever considered us to go back and to win the cup again. So, which is kind of crazy to think. Um, yeah, like that's a really weird thing to think about the fact that we have been here since 1967. We were the next six after the original six. Next six, we won our first cup in 2018, 2019, one cup, and that's it. Like, that's crazy to think about. The fact that we, for so many years, were in the National Hockey League and we only have one Stanley Cup. Like, that's a crazy thing. And I think that, like, like it's funny because we were in the Stanley Cup Finals. Like I know we were founded in 1967, and I wasn't alive for any of this, but we were in the Cup from 1968, 1969, 1970, and then 2019. Like that's insane. Honestly, like when you think about it like that, and I hate to be like, all like, when you think about it, like, but it's true. Like when you think about it like that, that's actually insane to think about the fact that we were in the finals 4 times and we only saw them in the finals and win once. Like that's a really weird thing to think about. And um it's funny too because when they lost to the Montreal Canadiens on one of them, I believe was it at the Boston Bruins? Was it? I think it was the Canadians twice and the Bruins once because I definitely know it was the Boston Bruins. I think it was the Canadians. That's crazy. Wait, mind blown. When you think about it, we've only faced really two other teams in the finals with the Canadians and then the Bruins. Like that's mind-boggling. But we got our revenge on Boston. So wow, I love hockey history. I'm a hockey nerd, but thinking about it, we really were never considered a strong team except right after we got formed into the NHL. So yeah, that whole narrative needs to change. That's exactly where my rant was going. We just had to find the little get back on it. But wow. Yeah, we have a lot to prove, and we're gonna prove it this coming season. So, a lot to dive into. Some player profiles this week. A lot of discussion on evaluating our players from the season and who I think will be traded, who I think will stay. Coaching changes so much. This is going to be a very busy off season. So, buckle up, St. Louis, because you are in for quite a ride of your life, or something like that. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow, and like always, let's go Blues.